finding something new every time I work with someone, especially when someone comes to me and says, the doctors say they have thus and such disease, and then we find out what's causing it, and it is so simple that the person does it to themselves. This is not consciously. They don't do it on purpose. People would say, well, I don't want to be sick. But they are doing it to their body for some reason. And we find out why the subconscious is trying to get the person's attention. What's it trying to tell the person? Then it will go away. So this is a very powerful form of therapy. And I'm leaving for the Middle East tomorrow. These shows will be broadcast while I'm gone, and I will be teaching my class in Dubai, which is in the Middle East. It's in the United Arab Emirates. I've been teaching the class now in the United States and all over the world. I had a class in England in May. And next year in March, I'll be teaching a class in Holland. So I'm hoping to spread this technique as far as I can, and the students I've had are saying they are having the same remarkable results. Apparently we have found something that has been unknown, forgotten, whatever you want to say. We have forgotten, we have just lost this ability for the mind to help cure the body, and maybe now we're getting it back. And what I discovered in my work may be the first step of it, that in time we will all be able to heal our bodies with our minds, and there won't be any illness anymore. This is the way it was in the days of Atlantis. No one was sick because they knew how to work with the body and the mind. And that's what I've been told in my work. We are getting all of these things back. They're all coming back now. We're being allowed to have these powers and talents back. There are many people who have come to me who want to restore lost knowledge and talents. They somehow know they had this information, they had this ability in times past, and they want to regain it. They want to bring it back into their lives now. And like, for instance, there are people who are painters, sculptors, artists, and they know at some other time they must have been an artist. They want to see if that's there, even musicians. They want to see if that ability is there. And if it is there, if they've had it from another life, maybe they can bring it back in this life and enhance their work. Because I've found anything we have ever learned, any talent, any ability, any knowledge we learned in other lifetimes is not lost. It did not perish with the death of that physical body. It remained. And all of that knowledge and that information and those abilities were stored in the subconscious mind, just like storing it into a gigantic computer bank. And if it is appropriate, if it is possible to use it in this life, it can be tapped into and brought back. It has to be appropriate, because maybe it's not what you're supposed to do this time. Maybe you were a famous artist or a famous composer in another life, and you did that. You learned that, and you don't need it now. Then it's not advisable to bring that back. This is what I always talk about. If it's appropriate to your life now, if you learned these things in another life, they can be brought back. I've had it happen many times. People have tapped into artistic abilities, musical abilities, and the subconscious is like I guess you would say a censor or a mentor there, and it will not allow anything to happen that you are not ready for or anything that will not be for your highest good. So if we do find a life where somebody had musical abilities and it says, no, it is not advisable to bring that back at this time, then if it's not appropriate, then I can't do anything about that. I cannot override what the subconscious says. But it knows best. It knows which way the person's life is supposed to go this time. Maybe you've done it. There's no need to repeat it again. Maybe the way that life is supposed to go this time around is down a different road, a different way. And if that is true, then we won't bring these abilities back. But I had a doctor come to me. He was in internal medicine. And he said he was doing his job, but he kept feeling there was something more, that at another time, somehow, he knew that he had more information, he had more knowledge, that he could heal in a different way. And he thought if only he could tap into that, he could help his patients a lot more. He had taken several healing group classes, like remote viewing and different Reiki and different classes where they teach you to see inside the body. He'd taken a lot of this, knowing there must be something else out there that was missing from the traditional medicine. But he said he hadn't found it yet. So he wanted to see if maybe it was from a past life, maybe he could have that knowledge back. When we took him back into the past life, he went into a lifetime where he was like a shaman, a medicine man. He took care of the people in the tribe, I guess you would say, the group that he lived in. And he had the remarkable ability in that lifetime to see inside the body. He could see when something was wrong with the body, and he was able to manipulate psychically with psychic hands, I guess you would say, not your physical hands. He was able to manipulate the organs, the muscles, whatever was wrong with the person. He could see inside and he could manipulate it. There were no deformities in that tribe. There were no major diseases because they knew how to prevent this by the use of their minds and by the use of being able to see inside the body. Often what we consider to be primitive tribes had these abilities. So we're the ones that are more primitive, I guess, if you want to break it down like that. But he had the ability to do this, and he helped a great deal of people in his group. He wanted to pass this knowledge on to others to follow him, but he never was able to completely train someone to take his job. But he had this ability to put his hands inside the body and manipulate the organs, very much like the psychic surgeons do today. And some of these are real. They're not all fake. There are some of these that are real. But whenever the doctor woke up, the one image that stayed in his mind was being able to see inside the body and being able to put his psychic hands into the body and to manipulate the organs. He said, I know what it feels like. It's cold and wet. And he said, I'll be able to use this. The patient doesn't have to know what he's doing. He'll just be able to give better care by being able to see inside the body and see what was really wrong with it. So in that case, he was allowed to have this lost knowledge back because he would be able to use it in this time period now. Well, one thing I want to say before I forget about it, these psychic surgeons are real, is because I had another doctor who came to me. I'd known him for a while because I'd had other contacts with him. He came to me for a session. He said about once a month he goes down to Brazil. And there is a very famous psychic surgeon down there called John of God. Many of you have probably heard of this man. And this doctor goes down there about once a month and spends time with this John of God. And he's so engrossed in this that the doctor even built a house down there so he would have a place to stay when he goes down. He said there would be long lines of people waiting to come in and see John of God. And this doctor would sit right next to him every time he goes down there to help him and to watch the proceedings. He said there was absolutely no way there could be any fraud. And he saw this John of God do many miraculous things. So I know a lot of people keep saying it's magic tricks, and they've tried to discredit these people. But it shows it is real in some cases. Not every case, but in some cases it is real. And they are able to use this long-lost knowledge that our ancestors had and that we had in other lifetimes. They're able to bring this back and use it now. So these things are real. But that was one case I had where the doctor wanted to bring back information he knew instinctively he had in his subconscious mind. Another one was a woman who was into herbs and oils. And she went back to a lifetime in ancient Greece, where she was someone who worked with with oils and herbs. She knew all of the plants, knew their uses, knew how to use them, had a great deal of knowledge. Well, as I said, that knowledge does not disappear with the death of the body. It is stored in this computer part of you. And so, when she had that information, the subconscious said she would be allowed to bring that information, the knowledge of all the plants and all the herbs and their uses and their preparation. She would be allowed to bring that information into this life so she could help with her own practice. But I said, how was she going to know which ones? Because they were known by different names in that time than they are in our time. The subconscious told her to go to the library or the bookstore and to get a book that had pictures of all of the plants and all of the flowers and all of the plants. And when she would see the picture, it would trigger the memory. And it would bring it back into her mind because they are known by different names than they were in the ancient Grecian times. It would trigger in her mind what the plant was used for and how to prepare and how to use it. So, to me, this is very valuable when you can tap into these ancient lost knowledge and talents and bring them back into our lifetime now to utilize them. This is some of the things I've done. People come to me for all kinds of reasons. Many of you have probably had cases of deja vu where you have been somewhere and you have the feeling you've been there before. And there's many documented cases of this. And sometimes you're never sure. Maybe it is a case of reincarnation, that maybe you were there in another lifetime and it's triggering a lost memory. I had 2 cases of this. I'm sure there's many, many more. I've had it happen with people, especially when they go to Europe. Because, in Europe, they don't tear something down. You can still walk the streets of towns that are hundreds and hundreds of years old. You could go into old cathedrals that have been sitting there for 700-800 to 1,000 years. These places have remained the